We are, Bill, man. We're back. We're back here in Tribeca, part 2.
We got a return guest, too.
We have a return guest, a mighty fine guest. He's here to promote his third book, and you guys might remember him. We covered his career extensively, the first 2 episodes that you were on, Michael. Then we had you back when we recorded live in Lucy's in Pleasantville.
That's right.
Where you talked about your brand new book. But I want to thank you for coming in again.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And this way we can really we can talk about the new book is called Reckoning in Brooklyn.
Yes.
It's your latest novel. The first novel, by the way, folks, was Shot to Pieces. Second novel, 13 stories. And this third one, Reckoning in Brooklyn. How do you go from being a decorated cop, a street cop, really from some people say that you have a rumor of being probably maybe the toughest cop ever on NYPD,
Wow.
to becoming an author?
I never heard that, but that's high praise. I'll take it.
Well, one of the toughest cops.
With respect, right? Exactly. Yeah. I'm not undefeated. With respect to being a writer, you pretty much have to be one.
Did you learn all your writing from requests for departmental recognition? Was that
No, but I was tasked with it with my anti-crime team. I was the guy that had to write everything.
Don't hit the table?
Yeah, that's interesting because here's something about when you get a
You
medal,
write up a medal.
A
yeah,
medal.
Yeah.
You have to write it up yourself. It's not like the guys that you worked with or your boss says, you know what, Michael, you did a really great job out there today. Would you mind if I put you in for a medal? No, Michael's got to be like, hey, boss, did you see what I did today? What the fuck, man? Don't I deserve for a medal? I did it.
Because guys used to use a lot of adjectives. There I was with total disregard for my safety as I dodged lead coming at me from several different directions, right? There were some good writers, right?
Yeah, well.
Well, I mean, that's probably you probably wrote the best. Everybody probably got their medal if you were in charge of writing it, right?
Yeah, we got a lot of medals. But we were slinging guns. Talking about Washington Heights in the late 80s, early 90s. Couldn't swing a dead cat without hitting somebody with a firearm.
It's true.
So.
You know, one time I had to go to the Departmental Recognition Review Board, and three of us had to present what happened to an inspector.
Right.
And he said, why don't you talk? So I talked, and when I was done, he was crying. That's how good I was.
Nice.
Really?
I'm just kidding. That was some good bullshitting.
Yeah, but you mentioned something there. You said, when I was done talking. And that's the difference. Most people, especially police officers, that's what we do here. We get these police officers coming in here, and we want to memorialize their great stories. We want to get them. We want to have a place for them to go in, like a Hall of Fame.
Right.
And then you want to take it to a next level. You know, talking is one thing, but putting it on paper, writing, making that connection from your brain till it comes out of your fingertips, that's way more difficult, isn't it, Michael?
I don't know.
For you, maybe not, but
I don't find writing difficult.
For you, but the average person.
Finding the time and the inspiration.
But how many people come up to you and say, "Oh, you know what? I got a couple of good stories too."
Oh, I get that all the time.
See, but people can't do it.
Well, here's the thing. Everybody who did this for a living has stories.
Yes.
I mean, the police, an old timer, when I was a rookie, said this. You got a front row ticket to the greatest show on earth. So you're going to have 20 years of other people's crises thrown in your lap and their stories. The question is, do they mean anything? No, they're just a vignette. It's a Facebook post. That's not a book.
Right.
A book is something else entirely. It's a setting, a time frame, a protagonist, and then you have to have an arc of development for your character and facing challenges along the way that fundamentally change the character so that he's not the same person at the end.
But you use a lot of real people as your characters.
Yeah,
in
I do.
books.
As a matter of
people
fact,
that you've met through life, people that left an imprint on you, and that's how you develop your characters.
I'm also writing retired detectives into my novels. They become characters in my novels, and they love it.
Who wouldn't, right?
I do that with my jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I put two people together. Sometimes I'll take a couple of words that I hear there, over here, and put that together. It's the same process. Your process of writing. I'm writing jokes. You're writing drama, right? I mean,
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
prose.
Thrillers. Yeah.
Prose. You know, I'm looking for the jokes and stuff, but the process is still writing. And sometimes you hear something from you put together two people and make a great character, right?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, pretty much, there are cops that are they're not good cops in my books, and in every instance, the hero cops in my books, I can tell you who they are. They are real people. They are singular people, and they appear in the novels as themselves. Maybe I changed the name in some instances. I'm not changing the name anymore. People actually want to see their name in the book. So.
That's great.
But the bad cops are composites of all of the bad cops that I've seen in my career. And
Like there's a type. There's a type of a cop
scumbag's
that doesn't right, that doesn't
so
answer.
you take three scumbags and make one giant scumbag,
Right, that
and now you have a good workable scumbag.
A cop that doesn't answer the radio, doesn't back up other cops.
Yeah, he's out from
Yeah, a cop
one-way
right,
streets.
Exactly. Yeah, one-way street. I think that was invented in the NYPD.
Yeah.
There's streets named after you.
Yeah.
They're called one way.
One way.
These three books, do they follow a through line? Are they connected in any way?
Shot to Pieces, I mean, they're all standalones on their own, but Shot to Pieces was my first novel, and it's a lot of it's autobiographical. Patty Durr and Michael O'Keefe are pretty much the same guy. A lot of the same challenges and conflicts in the book. My career is detailed in the book.
You have a deep hatred for the feds in both books.
Oh yeah, I can't stand the federal government. Particularly law enforcement. If I could find a way to withhold that portion of my tax money that pays for federal law enforcement, I would do it. But A Reckoning in Brooklyn is actually the prequel to Shot to Pieces.
Oh,
Patty Durr appears in it as a 17-year-old. It's a 1970s Bushwick story.
awesome.
And we get an idea on who put Patty on the path to becoming a cop, and where he developed that moral code that to do the right thing. That it's just a natural progression to become a cop.
Did you meet some of these wise guys that are in the
I
book?
grew up with these wise guys
Yeah.
that are in the book.
So you have a deep disdain for them also.
Yeah, because they were
Parasites.
parasites. They were bullies, and to be perfectly honest, they were cowards. They would intimidate you until you weren't intimidated,
Right.
and then they just picked on someone else who was, because society today seems to have lost the recipe. But the cure for a bully is a punch in the face.
Yes.
It's always been the cure for a bully.
Right.
And even though it offends our gentler sensibilities now, it's still the only cure.
Yeah.
So
Even metaphorically, the cure for a bully
Stand
is to
up.
just confront it. Yeah.
Stand up.
Yeah. Confront the bully. Yeah.
Yeah, bullies don't want to fight every day. If you said a shot to the face, if you just stand up to him and you let him know, listen, we're gonna fight, and if you want to fight, we'll fight every day. I'll lose every day, but the bully's gonna go find somebody else to beat up on. That's not gonna fight back.
well, my experience with bullies is they don't have any fighting skills.
Yeah, that's true too.
Once you take the curtain down and expose them,
Yeah, they don't want to fight.
well, guess
They
what?
really
There's only
don't wanna
one guy
fight.
in this fight who knows how.
They really don't want to fight. So, Reckoning in Brooklyn is a prequel to Shot to Pieces.
Yes, it is.
And a lot of characters, obviously, this is taking place in Brooklyn. There's a lot of, I would imagine, some shady characters. Your guy is he's 17 years old, and he's trying to figure his way out.
Yeah, he's
But he's not the main character in the book. The main character. in
no,
the book
he's
is-
not. He's actually an ancillary character in this book. And interestingly enough, the two detectives in A Reckoning in Brooklyn appear in Shot to Pieces as the responding uniformed police officers in an incident in Patty Durr's youth.
Wow.
So that particular incident involved a murder-suicide and an extramarital affair. That incident I actually detail in both books, but in A Reckoning in Brooklyn, it's told from the two responding cops' point of view.
Right.
That's
So it's,
interesting.
an interesting way to look at the same incident.
No, that's great. That's great.
So you got to come full circle and think of these things prior to writing it, or can you connect the dots later on?
I originally wrote Shot to Pieces. I wung it. I didn't have an outline. I had an idea of the story I wanted to tell. And I got there. But when I wrote A Reckoning in Brooklyn, I was about halfway done, and I had put it away. And by the time I got back to it, I didn't remember who all the characters were, where the trajectory of the story was supposed to go. So I had to reread the first part of the book, outline that, and then I constructed an outline, and then went back in and I knocked it out in a week.
Wow.
Having written an outline. So from now on, when I write novels, there'll be an outline in the character diary first.
Yeah, I mean, or else how do you remember all the things that, say the characteristics of a character? How do you remember all of that unless you put it down somewhere?
Yeah, which basically I'm
refer
doing.
to it,
Like
yeah.
I introduce a character and I'll put everything.
Did
I'll
the
write
book
a whole
drop yet?
backstory.
When does it drop?
Well, it's out.
Oh, it's out.
Yeah, it's been out about.
And where
a
can
month.
you go get it?
You can get it anywhere. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it in Barnes and Noble. You can get it in, as a matter of fact, the Mysterious Bookshop in downtown Manhattan, right around the corner from here. So,
Oh, that's a place.
Or you
Yeah.
can say, Mike, you're coming on police off the cuff. Send me a copy.
or I brought you a copy.
That's right.
You don't have to worry about buying it. But everybody
No,
else,
I got my.
make sure they know my website. You can link to the books on my
how well do you
website.
do when you do these? When you show up at a place and you do a reading. Do you sell a lot of books usually? When
Yeah,
you do that?
I usually do very well at those. They're obviously, it's my milieu. I do a lot of Honor Legion things. I'm an Honor Legion.
Oh, you go to.
I'm an Honor Legion member, so.
I am too
it's
since
my
1987.
Yeah, me
I've
too.
only been to like 1 or 2 meetings.
Oh, no,
so
I go now.
that's good.
They give me a table in the back.
It's
and
a good
I
group
sell
of
my
people,
wares
right?
like a gypsy.
That's great. That's great.
Well, you mentioned something when we were talking earlier about publishing, and how it's you got to do it a little different nowadays, right?
Well, it's kind of indicative of what's wrong with society these days as a whole. Traditional publishing, I think they're down to 5 imprints now. There used to be 8. So the traditional publishing is disappearing. I think 70% of the books that are out now are independently published.
So you self-publish your own book.
Yeah, well, what had happened is I was having such a hard time getting anybody in the traditional publishing industry to pay any attention to me. And I finally decided, why do I want to kowtow to them so I can give them half of my royalties? No, I'm going to keep them all, and I can do a better job publicizing myself than they can. And what it appears is I was right.
Yes.
It's because even if the publisher, they put the book out, they throw a little money at it, but in a month or two they go away.
Yeah.
So you're left to promote yourself.
And you got
again
social
anyway.
media that you could knock it out
Yeah.
on yourself,
Yeah,
right? That's
yeah.
great.
And the sales are coming along.
Also,
You're gonna have to hustle anyway.
Yeah. No,
This
it's-
idea that things is just going to start happening for you, and I don't care what the field is. If you're going to sell your wares like a gypsy, if it's comedy, if it's acting, if it's writing, you got to promote yourself. This idea that you're going to find a manager or an agent and they're going to do everything and all you got to do is show up. No, that's bullshit, man. Look at even these huge famous movie stars. They got to do press junkets before a movie comes out. Sure, they complain about it. It's the worst part of their freaking year. But, it's 20, 30 a day. Sometimes they got to fly all over the place, other countries, and do the same exact thing again. But it's part of it. You have to promote. So if you're young out there and you want to do any of these things I just mentioned, promotion is part of it, man.
Well,
there's no sitting back.
What's funny about writers, and obviously you get to know a lot. You get to know a lot of writers. Being an independent publisher, we're sharing secrets. It's almost an informal union now.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, I did this and this worked for me and my sales went up this when I did this. So, you're sharing secrets. But when you first got into writing, if you had known that the hustle was going to be that big a percentage of what you were doing, you might not have done the writing because it sucks.
Yeah.
As a writer, what you think is, I created this brilliant piece of art, throw money at me.
Yeah.
It doesn't work
Doesn't
that way.
happen.
You got to
know.
get it out there. It can be brilliant. It might be a brilliant piece of art. If nobody reads it, it's a doorstop.
Now,
Yeah.
in Bushwick, did you go back there to see some of the locations that you recalled?
I didn't have to do that because remember, I grew up there.
Okay.
And I spent the last 17 years of my career working as a detective.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So those locations,
They were like the
are-
back of your hand.
they're burned into my brain.
Right.
So, yeah, I did not have to visit.
Cool.
So,
So many cops, like we mentioned earlier, talk about the stories. They think they're going to become writers. You ever think about teaching a class?
yeah, they'll pay me for it.
Well, they'll pay you for it if you got to come up
See,
with
part of the problem is though, I finished my college career. I was probably 3 to 6 credits shy of an English degree, and I never went back. And it was almost a point of pride for me not to get the degree because my mother used to break my chops about it constantly. And I'm like, what do I need a piece of paper on the wall? In case I get in a pinch, I can break the glass, crumple it up, and get a good wipe. It doesn't do anything for me. I'm a detective. I can reach the top of the pinnacle of my profession with a GED. I have kids that are in college now. The money for school goes to them, not me.
Right.
So I don't have a degree. So consequently, nobody's
learning
going to ask me to
process
come
is
teach
different.
a college course.
It's different from people. Like, for example, when I wanted to study acting, I went to an acting school. When I wanted to do stand-up, I started doing stand-up. For some reason, in my mind, I just felt like I needed to go and learn acting from the process. And stand-up was something that I felt like I could just not wing it, but I would learn as I went along. And you know what's funny is me being a comic and Bill as well. People always come up to you after the show and they tell you, "Oh, I got a couple of jokes. I'm thinking about doing comedy. I want to do comedy." And it's because I guess maybe I make it look easy, like you feel like you can do it. And I would imagine the same thing happens if you're a writer, if you're an author, and you have a couple of books already. You ever get that people come up to you and they just tell you, I got a book?
Yeah. Everybody thinks they have one. They're seeking your expertise, obviously, because you put a book out, so you know what it entails. But I'll talk to these people. I'll be like, all right, tell me your story. Where's your book? And they tell you a story, and I'm not going to delude them. No, you don't have a book. That's not a book.
Right.
That's a story that goes nowhere. Mm-hmm. And I went to sleep halfway through it. And I'm a captive audience, so don't write that down. It's not going to be anything for you.
I told that to somebody the other
Does
day.
anyone ever ask you to write the book for them?
Yeah, I actually have a lot of detectives that are asking me to write their stories.
But you got to
as a
get paid.
book. Well, I'm not going to do their book because I'm writing novels. I have my own projects. But interestingly enough, in A Reckoning in Brooklyn, there was an undercover detective that I actually wrote into the book named Angelo Florio. Mm-hmm. Angelo Florio, the genuine Angelo Florio, was an undercover detective. He was 22 years old at the time in Brooklyn South. He was buying 2 kilos in, I think it was the 68th precinct. And he got shot during the buy. The buy went bad. The guy tried to rob him. It was a drug rip. And shot with a big gun. It was like a .357. And in the chest, and somehow he manages to survive.
Wow.
Runs out of that hallway. Now, Angelo started coming to all of my book events. He really loved Shot to Pieces, and it just resonated for him. So he lives in the asshole end of Staten Island, and he's coming to all my book events. Most of them are out on Long Island.
The asshole end of Staten Island, is that the beginning, the middle, and the end?
Well, the furthest away from Long Island. How about that?
Hey, that's a $19 toll.
Yeah, right.
I think the whole thing is the asshole end of Staten Island.
But Angelo's coming to all of my book events, and he's like, you have to write my story, you have to write my story. And I'm kind of shining them on because I don't have time. I'm working on 2 other novels already. But he keeps coming, and he's such a sweetheart. And my wife finally says, listen, you got to hear him out. I mean, just, maybe you can do something for him. So I said to him, I said, listen, Angelo, I don't have time to write your book. Okay, I heard your story. It's a great story, but it's not a book. It's one event in your life. And I know it was the most important event in your life, but you can't make a story out of it. I can write you into a book I'm already writing, if you'd be interested. And he said, yeah, do that. So, and he was good. He sent me everything. He sent me all the paperwork. He sent me the sound recordings from his Kel.
Wow.
So I was crying listening to it. It was horrifying.
A Kel for our audience is a microphone an undercover wears so that his backup team can hear what's going on.
And they recorded the conversations. So, I put all of that together, and I actually wrote him. I thought I was done with The Reckoning in Brooklyn until my wife convinced me to write Angelo into the book, and it actually took me in two different directions. So the book is substantially different since I wrote Angelo in.
Wow.
And the one that you read, he's in it. But
it's funny.
I wasn't sure if he would like it. The book came out, and I made sure that he got it on the day that it came out. And I said, call me, read it. These are your pages. I gave him the page numbers. I said, read the dedication. I said, call me back. Let me know what you think, because it's not too late. I can still amend it if there's anything you want me to change. He's like, yeah, okay. About a half hour later, there's his phone number, and all I'm hearing through the phone is crying. He was so touched.
Well, you memorialized his life.
Well, you know what?
That's beautiful.
It's probably the most rewarding moment of my writing career was to see how that, including him.
There'll be many more, my friend.
Made.
But that was great.
That was great. A very uplifting experience.
It's funny that you mentioned what happened to him. It was horrible. It was horrible, and it was a horrible incident. But you mentioned when you talk about writing a book, that book, it's not gonna. It could be an article about that incident. It could be a story about that incident. But a book, a book is. You got shot in the chest, the day before your wedding. You know what I'm saying? Or you were on your way somewhere else, or you had plans that, that incident is something that's taking place in a whole life. And that's where you got to build up. And that's why that incident changed or is so important in your life.
Well, here's a prime example. Shot to Pieces, I detail my shooting in 1992. The city basically threw me under the wheels of the bus and were looking to indict me for murder.
And if the audience
saving my
doesn't
own
know
life
about the incident we're talking about, listen to Michael O'Keefe's first episodes when he came on the show, and he goes into great detail. It's one of the most powerful and riveting stories that I ever had a chance to listen to, and we were blessed that he shared it with us.
Well, for the purposes of Shot to Pieces, I wrote that in. That event, that incredible event, is not the whole story. That's a chapter in the story. Mm-hmm. So if my own personal greatest
amount
event
to a book
doesn't amount to a book, your war story isn't going to cut it either.
Right. Mm-hmm. So. But every cop, we talked about this before. Every cop thinks he's got a million stories that equals a book. And
that's not what a book is.
No, but you go to a bar and you hear cops telling stories, and they're great. They're great. I mean, we all like to tell them, and we like to listen to them.
Yeah.
Some people are better storytellers than others.
But that's like a
mostly
drinking
Irish guys are good too.
Always. And you notice these stories are always told in bars.
Oh yeah,
it's natural that the Irish guys are telling.
What do they say? Because they're bigger. They're much bigger, right?
Yeah.
Well, you get one drink in you, and then you start, the juices start flowing, things start.
It wasn't a 9; it was a bazooka.
So The Reckoning in Brooklyn, it's dropped already, and you did the right thing. You involved this guy Angelo in there. I'm excited to read the book.
Yeah, I actually wrote a handful of guys that I used to work with are characters. At least their names are characters.
You gonna turn any of these into screenplays?
I would like to turn them all into screenplays for 7 figures. Mm-hmm. But I'm at the point now where I'm too busy writing the novels. I'm not going to try and create a screenplay out of them unless someone expresses interest.
I think the names of Shot to Pieces and A Record in Brooklyn, both great names. Now, as far as if you can get a sizzle reel, and by that I mean you take one of these scenes, just one scene, and you usually, to keep production value, make it even the simplest scene out of either one of these novels. And then this way you start writing that scene itself into a screenplay format. The rest will follow, but you shoot that. And that's another way to pitch your idea. Like people used to go with the screenplay, and they wasted their whole time writing a screenplay nobody wanted to hear. Instead, you go pitch them 3 or 4 ideas. Now they want, we like that one. Give me a treatment on that. So you give them a 3-page, you give them a one, or after the pitch is over, you can give them a 1-page, a 3-page, you can give them a 10-page. It's like almost like a short story of that, and then they'll pay you money to write the screenplay. With the sizzle reel, you're selling both. You're selling the possibility of writing a screenplay, and you're letting them see it visually, what it might look like. So you're also getting your director chops in there too.
But all that stuff costs money.
Yeah. Well, take the money that you're making with all these Knights of Columbus shows that you're doing, selling the books out. There's a line out the door.
The Honor Legion meetings.
And a lot of it is like piecemeal, you know. You're going to have to meet somebody like Andrew, you know what I'm saying? A couple of other, people that know the other side of the camera filming. And you'll be the director.
I have.
It's your story.
If you visit my website, right at the very top of it, I have 2 trailers. Shot to Pieces and A Reckoning.
All right,
Brooklyn.
so
They're basically 30-second movies.
Yeah, good.
That's cool.
Yeah, good.
So, but
That's good promotion for your book, right?
Yeah,
See, now you know I know what I'm talking about.
I do know you know what you're talking about. That's the point. I'm basically turning it into a cinematic approach already. I'm telling you already, this is a cinematic.
How many books do you have to sell in your mind for it to be successful?
Well, for me?
Yeah, for you.
Oh, I want the villa in Italy.
There's
There's
New
no
York
complete
Times.
success.
Well, how many did you sell of Shot to Pieces?
It's still selling. Somewhere probably in the vicinity of 10,000 sales.
Let me ask you, when it comes to sales and stuff like that, how do you get on that New York Times bestseller list? Is that just through publishing, or can an independent writer such as yourself, after a certain amount of sales and that you can prove it to them, can you get on the list that way?
No, the Times is not will not review an independent author.
Really? Fuck you, New York Times. That's what I say.
I wouldn't line
I don't
up
like
on
them
my
anyway.
birdcage with it.
Bullshit. That paper sucks now. You know, that used to be the pinnacle of journalism.
The other aspect of it is you see people listed as a best-selling Times author. That's because their publishing house paid the Times to say that.
Right.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors in this business to begin with.
Yeah.
But
what's a good indicator whether or not a book is any good? Check the reviews. If you have 167 reviews that are primarily 5- and 4-star reviews, and they're detailed reviews, and you get an idea when you read Amazon's reviews. Some of these people are rated Amazon reviewers. They're called Vine Voices or
That's
something of that nature. And they're dropping 2-page reviews on your novel.
That must feel good, right?
Well, now I know somebody who's serious.
Yeah.
And is a serious reader, has picked it apart and liked it.
It's a fascinating thing with the writing, because when you said to me or to us, how can you tell if it's a good? I thought you go walk into somebody's house and you see the book there, because back in the day, I look at all the famous books that we've had throughout history. Catcher in the Rye. I challenge anybody, maybe not now, but go back 20 years. I guarantee you most households had Catcher in the Rye in it. Either it was some kid going to school bringing it home, or a parent had it left over from their youth. But there's these certain about Wuthering Heights, the Kill a Mockingbird, all these stories that we had to read when we were in high school also became...
they're classics.
Tom Sawyer. Yeah, they're classics.
They're classics.
But I thought that's what you were going to say, that they were in somebody's house. That was my answer I was going to give. Remember, I was bad on tests. Right. That was the answer I was going to give.
A little late.
Yeah. They're in somebody's house.
You want your book in the homes of cop families in California, in Florida, not just New York.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. I'm trying to expand my reach off of the Eastern Seaboard.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good on the East Coast. Making inroads in Chicago, Philadelphia.
We're all over the world, police off the cuff.
That's why I'm
You
here.
can look us up in Sweden.
That's why I'm here. You're going to give me my spread.
Well, that's what publicity is all about. It's like you said, the reviews, and just getting out there. You might have to put the freaking thing and drive across country. Go to all these Knights of Columbus. Well, what is it? You said it was not Knights of Columbus.
Honor
Legions.
What's the difference?
FOPs.
FOPs. Yeah. Okay.
1013 associations.
Cop clubs.
Cop clubs. Yeah, I'm doing the Pulaski's next week down in Maspeth. I think It's Thursday night.
Make sure you give the right address out.
What kind of food do they eat at the Pulaski meetings?
Kielbasa and pierogi. What do you
my
expect?
God.
Nice.
What do you expect?
It's good stuff.
The Irish guys, they just have hot dogs with sauerkraut. The Emerald Society.
I'm not
So I
going
only
to the
went to
Emerald.
one.
That's why I'm
meeting,
going to the Pulaskis, not the
I went to
Emeralds.
one meeting when I got that food. I heard the Colombians have the best food.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, they're
like
all caterers.
Yeah.
Those are good parties, man.
How about the Dominicans, Mark? What do they got at their meetings?
I don't know. I never went. I never
never
got
went,
into that.
yeah.
I'm not.
Do they have specifically a Dominican office?
No, I think it's just a
association?
Latino
Latino,
Officers Association, yeah.
Yeah, they're good. Those parties are great.
They're great.
If you've ever gone Latinos, the Hispanic Society.
Not too many things better than the Manhattan North Christmas party. No, the Manhattan North Narcotics Christmas party. I'll tell you that. Take it from me. If you're not doing anything this year, find out when it is if it hasn't passed
Did
yet.
you do a 10 minutes comedy
man.
or what?
No, this is way. No, this I was actually doing comedy back then, but that's a lot of fun. That party. You know, speaking of Christmas parties, you remember the party that used to go on here at the one in the court?
Yeah, that's the Manhattan DA's.
Yeah, the Manhattan. That was a good party,
Christmas.
man.
Yeah, that was.
Man,
I went to
those
a couple
were
of
good.
those.
I remember going into that party.
It's in the Surrogates Court.
Yeah, it's right on the. As soon as you walk in, and it's got obviously you're in the court building. It's got huge ceilings. The lights are still on. There's a DJ playing, and there's people dancing. And you're like, well, how the hell could anybody be dancing with the lights on? You never even think that's possible. And then they have these big barrels, and inside those barrels there's all the beer that you can you can want. And then over here there's somebody, a full bar, serving drinks, and you have a couple of drinks, and before you know it, you're dancing in the daylight right on the dance floor. You know, it's at nighttime the party, but it's fully lit.
Well, we have to mention the SBA party on the 20th, Friday the 20th, and it starts early. It's at noon, but they usually open up before that, and it's at Russo's on the Bay.
Oh, we didn't mention the name.
It's soup to nuts. I'm telling you, they spare no expense. The SBA.
I'm not a big nut guy, man.
Well,
I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
They have any kind of food you could want. And I usually go there. I mean, I go there every year. I don't drink. during
You
the day.
retired as a sergeant, Michael?
No, I was first grade detective.
Oh, first grade detectives. I was going to say, you should go to the party, set up a booth. You could set up right next
I
to
can
us.
do that
still
anyway.
go,
All
yeah,
I have
yeah.
to do is ask
You can
permission.
still go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done the lieutenants.
We're supposed
I've
to
done the
set up a
PDA.
booth that day, the all police off the cuff booth.
Yeah, you could chill in
We don't
our
have any
booth.
more cards to hand out, though, right?
I'm gonna redo the cards again. I got to do them. I can't wait for these people. We're waiting for a banner over here.
Our banner, yeah.
Right now.
Julio was here. Where the hell's our banner?
You guys should use my pen.
Maybe we could do it.
Maybe we could put some graffiti on this wall.
Spray painted here, right?
Reckoning in Brooklyn, put it on the wall there.
If you want, I'll give you my printer. You'll have everything you need in a week. His
What do you-
prices are good.
What kind of printer you got?
He's a quick print. He's in Massapequa Park. His name is
Oh,
Josh.
okay.
He's a
I
great
thought
guy.
you had a special printer. In your
No,
house.
I use him for
No,
everything.
Pam made us a fabric banner, but she left in the car today. So
What's the process of getting these books done? So you're done with the book. I would imagine you have to have an editor, right? Because you can't just trust yourself, right?
Yeah, actually, my mentor, her name is J.R. Torek. She's a wonderful poet. She's poet a day for the last 25 years. But she's also a wonderful editor.
What does that mean, poet a day?
She writes a poem a day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's hard
this
to do.
is Long Island. You're from Farmingdale, right?
Yeah. Yeah. She's also the moderator of the Farmingdale Creative Writers Group, which was
that's
the
great.
first writers group that I joined.
Do you get a lot out of that, hanging out with other writers and talking about the writing process?
Yeah, actually what it is it gives me an opportunity. They're my first beta readers. I'll write a chapter and I'll bring it to the meeting and I'll read it and hand copies out, and I get immediate feedback. Some of it's good. Some of it is, yeah, thanks for coming. But Judy's edits are always on point.
Yeah.
So
So
I
you
used her.
respect her.
She edited Shot to Pieces. She edited 13 Stories for me, and she edited A Reckoning. And I already sent her the first couple of chapters of the next book, which is another Patty Durr book. It's going to be called Burnt to a Crisp.
That's another good
What, he
thing.
become a fireman?
No, actually, it's based on one of my old homicide cases. It was it was an arson triple homicide, and
In the 8-3?
in the 8-3, and it's a great case.
Cool.
So now you get the your editor edits the book.
She edits it.
Once it's fully done, edited, ready to go, Now, you mentioned your publisher. Is that where it goes next?
Well, see, that's the thing.
Not your publisher, your printer.
No, because I'm using Amazon, and I'm using another publishing company called Ingram Spark.
Okay.
And what I'm doing is I am creating the book myself on my laptop.
Okay. The artwork?
Well, the artwork, for the most part, I bought that photograph and sat down with a friend of mine who's a graphics designer, and she added some things that I wanted, but they're my designs. The 13 stories, that drawing of the tree is my illustration.
That's a tree?
Yeah. It's a creepy tree with a face in it.
Oh, I didn't.
Put your glasses on.
You see what I did there? Yeah. All right. So you're doing the art. Are you doing some of the artwork yourself?
No, I'm doing all the artwork.
All the artwork yourself. And see, this is what I love about this creative process, because you're involved in it from soup to nuts.
Yeah.
You wrote the book yourself, and then you're involved in the artwork. You have the editor there. I'm just trying to go through this step by step, through the process of it for those aspiring writers that are out there, just so you know what you're up against. Now you have the artwork. You do creating all this stuff.
Let's go back to editing, because we went over that really quick.
Okay.
When Judy gets my book, I've probably edited it myself about 17 times, and then the final edit is hers, because it's a professional edit, and I'll make changes based upon her notes,
her suggestions,
and then I'll go in one more time, and if I'm at the point where I can't stand to look at it again, now we go and publish it.
Now you know it's done.
Yeah.
Does she cut things sometimes that
She suggests cuts. Yeah.
don't like?
Yeah.
That you want to? No, I want to keep that. But
No, that's one of the first things that I learned early on in my writing career. There's an expression: you have to kill your darlings.
Kill your babies. Yeah, that's an
You got to
acting.
kill your babies. You really like it, but go ahead and read it to yourself 3 times. Is it necessary?
Yeah.
It's probably not.
Yeah.
If somebody else is recognizing it as being extraneous and not helping the story, let it go.
it's funny. You ever read the book Stephen King on writing?
Yes.
It was an interesting book, right?
His quote, Stephen King's quote on it is, when it comes time to cut to the bone. It's a bit like murdering your own children, but it must be done.
Killing your baby.
And he runs it. His wife is his editor.
Yeah.
She reads it, and then he says she's usually right, but sometimes she'll make a suggestion. He'll go no, because I have full veto power.
See, the difference between the process here is, for example, when I wrote I wrote a one-man show, a solo show, and I had the opportunity to go and perform it. What I would do is I'd write a chunk, because my format of writing the one-man show, and the reason why my show was so good was because it was super funny. It was so punched up. A lot of times actors tend to write these performance pieces, these solo shows. They're not really comedies. Comedy writers, they're not comedians. There'll be a funny anecdote every 5, maybe 10 minutes. The audience will laugh. This was like bang, bang, bang. It was like watching a stand-up show, but in a storytelling format, with the props, with the desk, with the suit on, acting it out. And the ability to perform it for an audience in my stand-up act, and then bring it back and put it in and put that little piece, those little stories, to make a whole story into a man's show. Now, when you're writing, do you get up and sometimes
Mark, you should
act it
mention
out?
what your story was. 20 and out.
It was called 20 and Out. That was my show.
Come on, let people know.
20 and Out, and it was about basically why I got out after 20. Now, do you ever, in the process of writing, get up and start doing the dialogue to yourself, talking to yourself, acting it out, seeing what it would look like almost on screen while you're writing it?
Yeah. Well, my first beta reader.
When you say beta reader, what does that mean?
That's somebody who's reading your material and giving you advice.
Okay.
I read as soon as like in a first draft version. I read to my wife, and she either gives it the thumbs up. Her criticisms are always on point. She occasionally she'll
good to have
suggest,
somebody you can
"I don't
trust
like
that way.
Well, yeah, I trust her absolutely. I can't rely on her though as the final word because she thinks the sun rises out of my asshole.
Right.
I need some criticism.
Need someone critical, yeah.
So, but she's good. Like she'll tell me I don't think that really works, and oftentimes I'll read it again aloud to myself. I'm like, yeah, you're right. That dialogue's clunky. Let's rework it.
So my wife tells me that shit's not funny.
Yeah. So, but yeah, she's a big fan. She doesn't ever have to read the books because she's read every single unedited word.
Yeah.
By the time that
But she's
the books
a fan,
come out.
though. She's a fan of
Yeah,
your
she
writing,
loves the
though.
stories. She tells people she knows the stories as well as I do.
Yeah.
And she sells it to people. She goes, "Oh, you got to get this one. It's about this." Then she goes through all the nuances.
You know, you would always want to, no matter how good a writer you are, you'd always want to see your material on the screen.
Yes.
That's the dream, right?
Yeah.
Or even a play, maybe.
Well, let's go. So with the process, I just want to get to the end of that. So we talked about the artwork. We talked about the computer, putting all these things together, the editing process, how you did most of the editing by yourself, and then when then you send it off to the editor. You put it together, and when you're sick and done, that's it. Now we're at the point where it's time to. Okay, this is as good as it's going to get. This is my new novel. Now what?
Now you have to publish it. And there's a number of ways you can do that. There are publishing companies out there specifically for independent publishers. Book Baby is a prime example. And they're actually very good. They offer other services like advertising and promotion and
Are you
and
paying for
editing.
these services initially?
No, I'm not. I'm doing it myself. The way that I elected to do it is I'll publish my book, the electronic version, the first electronic version, and the first paperback I will put out on Kindle Direct Publishing. And it's actually from my kitchen table.
Wow.
I'm actually sending it, and Amazon, Kindle, they put together a very professional book, and they send you your galleys, and you approve everything, disprove it. Because Amazon does not do hardcovers, and they also don't do the independent bookstores or libraries, I elected to publish the softcover and the hardcover versions at another publishing company called Ingram Spark, and they make beautiful books. What happens, it's the exact same book, and you can buy them all on Amazon from my Amazon page. But now I'm in all the libraries, I'm in all the schools, I'm in all the independent bookstores.
How about you in the big ones like Barnes and Noble?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, you can get my book in Barnes and Noble.
But most people buy books now online anyway, right?
Amazon is actually doing, I think, the 70% of the books being sold are sold by Amazon.
Oh.
So it's almost, they almost have a monopoly.
I know, it's just these days
But,
no one even shops for clothes or anything more except online. Like I just bought a pair of sneakers online.
Well, if you're like me, you don't
Get
really
lazy.
have a great deal of use for humanity, and if you can
I don't want to wind up in a mall.
If you can, if you can shop in your bathrobe at your kitchen table on a computer
That's nice,
laptop,
yeah.
I don't actually have to talk.
You don't have to worry
another
about an
human being.
active shooter. You don't have to worry about any of that.
I don't want to jump the gun here, but any thought about doing these books on tapes?
Yes,
how you're gonna
as
act
a matter of fact, 13 Stories is already out on Audible.
Wow, see, I asked
And
a good question.
The same narrator, Chris Lane is his name. He's wonderful. Is also in the process of doing Shot to Pieces for me.
How did you find this guy?
I auditioned. I put the book up through ADX, which is Audible, and it's 3 companies all got together, and people who are professional narrators and readers.
Hey, we never got. He never auditioned us. What happened there?
Next one.
Hey, ooh.
But so it's just one narrator reading the whole book. There's not a bunch of.
He'll do different voices.
Okay,
You know,
that's
and you
interesting. I didn't know that.
And when you give him the pages and you work the project with him, you give him direction. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of interplay between you and the narrator.
How long does that process take? A couple of months?
It's been a couple of months now. I'm waiting to hear. I was hoping to have Shot to Pieces and Audible available by Christmas.
Can you
but
do
I
that?
don't
You
know
have to
if
go
we
to a
can make
studio
it.
for that, or can you do it?
Oh, he does it. Most of these
he has it
guys
set up at home?
they have their own setup at home.
Oh, that's great.
And
That's good.
what's awesome is they upload the material to you through the ADX site, and you listen to
That's great.
to the work as it
And
comes
he
in.
uses a different voice for each character.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a lot to do, too.
Well, this was a 3-hour phone conversation. He had just finished the book, and he had made notes. He goes, all right, how do you pronounce this word? Like, he had, like, great questions. And
A Brooklyn dialect.
well, the guy's a New York guy, so he knows a Brooklyn dialect. And but see, the problem is I probably auditioned 38 different people
Wow.
to read Shot to Pieces, and they just sucked. They would not take my direction. Yeah, it's a Brooklyn story. The guy's a Brooklyn tough guy, but he's also got an advanced degree in English from Columbia University. So he doesn't sound like Satch from East Side Comedy. Okay? Think Liv Schreiber.
Yeah.
That's the voice I'm looking for.
Yeah.
That's the educated Brooklyn voice.
Yeah.
So you needed an actor.
Well, no, I just needed somebody to listen.
Yeah.
And Chris Lane listened.
Well, because what happens is when you're reading a breakdown like that for a part, for example, and inside the breakdown it says we're looking for a Brooklyn detective. All of a sudden, everybody that comes in and auditions, if I don't have to put on a New York accent, I already have a heavy New York accent. I'm aware of this, okay? So whenever I read for anything that's involved in New York, I never change my voice at all because then it's going to be too much over the top. It's not even going to be believable.
You know, Mark, someone wrote in a critique of our last thing with Edmund Hartnett, he goes, the thing I love about this show is your 3 accents. I love it because I'm in Florida. I don't hear this anymore. I love listening to New York accents. I was like, wow, for once we're getting praised for it rather than someone saying, your voice, you forget it, your accent's off the charts, you know.
So
I'm looking forward when he gets done with Shot to Pieces. I'm going to ask him to read for A Reckoning in Brooklyn. That's going to be a challenge because I want to see how he handles the Northern Irish accent, the brogue, for Fast Eddie.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah.
That requires that's really good acting.
Studied actor.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be interesting. So, all right, so we got the books on tape to look forward to that are coming out, even though 13 Stories is already.
It's already available on.
It's already-
You can get it on Amazon as an
For
Audible.
those of you who aren't avid readers but like to listen and or drive to work every single day, and you get done with our podcast, it only takes an hour, and you want to start jumping in, checking out 13 Stories. That's a good idea.
And the great thing about Audible is they're also through iBooks. And you download it to your phone. And you can just play it in the car while you're driving.
That is great.
Yeah.
It's good for me.
The lazy man way of reading, right?
Yeah.
So I would imagine, without going into great detail, that when you embark on this, becoming an author, in this modern world of becoming an author, that there's going to be some expenditures. The same thing with producing my one-man show. I won't tell you, I wouldn't lie to anybody. I always tell them, listen, you're going to have to pay. I paid for a director. I had to pay for the theater to put it up. And then, people come out. That's hopefully you break even at least. That's basically what I was hoping for.
Yeah.
And luckily for me, that happened. But there are expenditures. Because there's always the idea that there's somebody sitting on a couch somewhere with a ton of money, and all you got to do is, just give me some money and let me go be creative. You're gonna have to dig into your own pocket. You're gonna have to we talked about most of the work on your own anyway. So I'm just curious, like, is it really expensive to get one?
It doesn't have to be. I learned the lesson the hard way. When I first published Shot to Pieces, I went through a publishing firm called Lulu Publications. Now, they're expensive, but they tell you what they're going to cost. Okay. It didn't have to cost what it cost. I probably went into pocket about $12,000 between buying some advertising from them, to push the book when it first came out, and actually to get it into print. It cost probably about $12,000 out of my own pocket, and I probably would have just kept that contract the way that it was. but now I wanted to advertise on Amazon. And I couldn't do it because Lulu wouldn't make me an agent of the book. I wrote it, but they won't let me be an agent of the book.
What does that mean, being agent of the book?
Basically, I can do business with Amazon on behalf of this project.
Because then
with the permission
you're cutting them out.
Well, that's exactly it. She goes, I says, listen, I don't want to do that. I want you to make me an agent because I want to design the ads and I want to do the advertising campaign. They're like, well, we don't do it that way. I'm like, well, how do you do it? She goes, well, you give us $7,000 and, you know, we construct an ad campaign. I said, wait a second. You're telling me I got to give you another $7,000 so you can give me 145 fucking bucks of Amazon advertising? You are so fucking fired, it is unbelievable. So I killed the publishing contract with them, and it took me 3 days to get it up on KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. So it's back out again.
Well,
and
Mike,
it was only down for
you only
3 days.
learn this stuff by doing it.
Yeah, but
right?
because I had to do it. I didn't have anybody with any expertise.
Right,
That
you weren't born.
But when you're going to the meeting, aren't you exchanging, you know, the writers' meetings that you go to, aren't you exchanging this type of business etiquette to
The
us?
thing is, in the circle that I was in when Shot to Pieces first came out, the circles that I was traveling in, I was by far the most successful writer.
Yeah, because everybody's
So they didn't have any experience to share with me. I was already past them.
But now you could teach a class on it.
Yeah, well, now I'm actually talking to established authors.
Yeah,
who,
good.
you know.
Do you ever go to that Irish Writers Association?
I haven't been to that one yet, but it looks appealing.
Looks like there's some good writers there.
Yeah.
And you are Irish, right?
I am.
They'd
I
probably
am
let you
Irish.
in.
Yeah, I think they'll let me in. I got Gaelic tattooed on my arm. Of course, I'm Irish.
It's not like an Emerald Society meeting.
Not for nothing, man, but I'm fascinated about this because let's see what we got here. This is not the way it's supposed to go down. No, we're getting an idea, but just give it to me because I can't see it there. I'll take any idea I could possibly get. I'm not shy. Here you go. That is actually
Big problem is we can't see in this show.
Bob
Yeah,
has
we're
come
all
through
blind.
twice in the clutch. First with Ed, and now again with another great question. Now, Bob's question: does the business side of this take the joy out of the writing?
I mean, it can. You can let it, but I'm looking at the business end of this as part of the same challenge, and I'm all about challenges. Like you tell me this is difficult, people can't do this. Yeah, I can do this. I can learn that, and I'm going to make it work. There are times I overextend myself and I get exhausted. Next week is going to be an example of that. And then I need a week off, you know, to take a breather. And while I'm taking a breather, I'll just throw some Facebook ads and some Amazon ads out.
Yeah,
just
could
to
you
keep
could you
out
be
there.
wearing too many hats doing this stuff?
The thing is, you can't now because that's the way it's done. That's the way this business is done. You don't have a choice but to put on all those hats.
Right.
Because if you don't put on,
You're gonna pay.
nobody's going to find out who you are. Because they're not looking for you. You don't have to find them.
Right.
You know what's an interesting dynamic to this is that if one of these books happens to take off, and I'm talking about a global thing, you get 250,000, 500,000, 1 million sales on this book. And now all of a sudden, the next book, that's going to be completely taken out of your hands. All we're going to do is be like, Mike, man, keep up the good work. Just write the book and get it to us, and we're going to take care of everything from this point on. And I guarantee you, if that, God bless you, I hope that happens to you, knock on wood. But I guarantee you that happens. As the thing is getting taken away from you, you're going to be like, no, wait a minute, that's not the way. No, wait. Don't.
Actually, Bill asked a brilliant question before, and I really didn't answer it the right way. He goes, what do you consider success for this? I'm going to tell you what the success that I envision. If you're familiar with Andy Weir, he wrote the novel The Martian. Andy Weir spent 15 years trying to get his novel published. And publishing, anybody who read it was like, this is great, we love it, but we can't sell it, so we're not going to publish you. And after finally getting frustrated, he said, screw it, and he put it out himself. And he doesn't even know what he did to go metatastic. But that's exactly what happened. Word of mouth, everybody hearing about this book.
By metatastic, that you mean it was a success.
Like when cancer explodes and it goes everywhere.
Okay.
Metastasizes.
Yeah. that's basically, that's how.
It went viral.
Yeah, it went viral. But yeah, that's a better word. It went viral. So ultimately, what happens is now Hollywood's interested, and they come with a publisher. I believe Doubleday gives him a 7-figure check to republish The Martian as is under their imprint, and then later in the week, the studio, along with giving him money for the rights to do the movie, they give him a 7-figure screenwriter's check. So he's got 2 7-figure checks in the same week, and knowing that he's going to make more money down the road because he's got some producer credits coming also. And what's interestingly enough is this is, well, did you already have the screenplay written? He goes, no, my involvement with the screenplay is to cash the check. I didn't do another thing. That's the level of success I'm looking for.
That's great, yeah.
So,
Yeah, but
I want to be the next Andy Weir story.
No, it's great. It's great because especially when you've done this work and you've gotten to a certain point. But my point was more on just an artistic level, because when that point comes and Hollywood's getting your story and they're going to take it, they're not doing it with a scalpel, okay? They're going to do it with a butter knife, cutting into a huge steak. It's going to be a mess. And you don't want to be there for it anymore because it's not even going to be. It might not even look like your story anymore.
Yeah, well, you know who that happened to was Lee Child. He got his Jack Reacher stories, ended up getting co-op by Hollywood, and they're going to make some movies. And Lee Child was not the established superstar that he is now. At that time, he was like kind of beginning. So he pretty much sells his books.
Took the money.
He took the money. He sells his books to the producers, and they basically come up with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, the lead character lost.
He lost a foot in height. If you've ever read a Jack Reacher novel, he's this giant human being of a man, and just Tom Cruise. Those were entertaining movies, but they were not Jack Reacher stories.
Right.
There is a new Jack Reacher coming out, and it won't be Tom Cruise because now Lee Child has the chops to tell the studio, yeah, you want to option my book? This is who's going to be in it. Mm-hmm. So
He's got power.
He's He's got that
power.
Yeah. So I'd be happy with just like a TV series money, like Michael Connelly money. That'd be okay.
Yeah, I mean, as far like you think about this podcast in a way, it's another thing. It's a creative endeavor that me and Bill have partaken, and at some point, like even just this move to come here, we were up in the palatial estates in Austin with the kid over there, just doing this on our own. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, the thing starts gaining interest. We start getting a lot of phenomenal guests on the show, and people are interested. What are you going to do with it? Where's it going to go? Now we have this. We got to make this decision. So. We were blessed with this opportunity, and we wind up here. But every time you take that step, you're also giving a little bit away creatively. Now we have a producer. It's not just me calling the shots. Anything I want to do, I should probably pass it through the producer first because that's their job. And I don't want to go over anybody's head. You know what I'm saying? So you start running into these little things, and the more success you get, the further away the further control gets away from you.
But Mark, what's funny with that is that as we started doing this show, people started calling us and asking if they could be on, which I found gratifying because they watched other guys and they go, "Wow, that's a good show. I'd like to be on."
Yeah, it's good. It's been a beautiful ride so far, especially when we get guests like such as yourself to come in here, somebody who also has these. A form of expression, and that's what all we're trying to do is trying to express ourselves out there, and it's interesting the process that you had to go through to get this stuff done. And
it's also great when cops do great things, in a second, third career.
Well, see, that's one of the problems with respect to today's publishing is the people that are the agents and the publishers and the publicists are all in the same social circle, and it's all New York. Mm-hmm. It's idiosyncratic to New York, so it's like an echo chamber. What the public wants is what the media is telling these people
they want,
and they don't have any outside information So they're believing it. So consequently, nobody wants to do a police story because the police are unpopular. Until you go out there and see who's buying what books and what they're about. Police are incredibly popular. And the nice thing about it is, while I'm writing in this milieu, I get to address a lot of subjects, particularly as it relates to cops, in my books, and shed some light on how it really is. I deal with police suicides. I deal with post-traumatic stress. I deal with graphic descriptions of what happens when you're in a gunfight, because the public doesn't get that story. Ed Mullins was talking about it earlier. There's a truth out there that we never get to tell ours.
Well, you said
I'm telling truths,
the story that they'll
and
buy.
it's gratifying.
The story that they'll buy is, if you want to talk about, like, for example, I got this comment the other, me and Bill were talking about it earlier. How come you guys don't talk about police corruption? I said, well, you know what? When you get a show, you talk about police corruption on your show.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody, like,
He's a wise guy too.
well, this is our show. Yeah. This is our show. We talk about what we want to talk about here, and if there is a subject, I'm not scared to talk about police corruption.
Well, we went over it with my episode. We spoke about Michael Dowd.
Yep.
And the fact that if I ever run into him, I'm going to punch him in the face.
Right.
Well, there you go. I mean, it comes up. But see, that's not what they want.
He was talking about bullshit.
No, they want, what they want us to do is sit here and start outing cops or talk about stuff that either we saw on the job and we did nothing. We chose not to. Like every time I go out in the street, there's a cop committing a crime, and I'm just going to turn my back. Which never happened.
He was talking about letting a cop off that has a PBA card or a cop's family. Like, oh, if you're listening, I'm not writing that guy a summons when I was a cop, okay?
No.
Is that corruption?
Well, here's the other thing, okay?
It's a courtesy.
It's a courtesy.
You got a PBA card, you know somebody, you're being courteous with me, I'm going to be courteous with you. All right, here's the secret, and most cops were like me. I wrote very few summonses. As long as you don't motherfuck me, you're not getting a ticket.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
And he thinks that's corruption.
you know what we brought an interesting point, and you see, there's no classes taught on car stops, or no video that you can watch. Maybe we should put one out on what to do if you're confronted by a police officer. And I can almost guarantee you that what did they say? You get more bears with honey, right?
Absolutely.
So instead of being that guy,
bears.
That
was great. You said bears, bees. You probably get more bears too.
Isn't there a bear on the show?
Flies with honey.
Catch more flies with honey.
All right, whatever. Honey jar. What the fuck was that? Yeah. But I forget what my point.
There's actually a corollary on that, and I think I saw it in a movie. Hey, you can catch more flies with honey. He goes, yeah, I've learned that. He goes, but I also know that I can get more accomplished with a kind word and a gun than I can with just a kind word.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. But I'm talking about from the civilian's point of view. You get pulled over by a cop. Sorry, officer. I don't know. Did I do something wrong? Instead of, what did I do? Why are you pulling me over? You know, it's another thing.
Well, I get pulled over all the time because speed limits are suggestions. But when the same thing happens, the hands go up on the steering wheel so you can see them, and I wait for you to come up, and then I look, and I turn my head so you don't have to come get away from and expose yourself. And I laugh and say, I'm sorry I pulled you out of your hide. I hope it wasn't too far back. And they look at you like, where'd you work? And I'm like, my ID card's in my wallet.
You know what's funny is that they'll pull over for the initial, like, look, what is a lawful order? A lawful order is something that a police officer that's been, sworn to protect and to go, that's his job. He's giving you a law and order. He's driving right here, and he goes, whoop, whoop, pull over. What do people do? 99 out of 100 people, they're going to pull over. Why? It's the same thing if I come up to your window and say, let me see your license, registration, and insurance. No, I don't have to show you that. Really? So why did you pull over? What did you think was going to happen? I just wanted to see how you... what's up, buddy? You want to get coffee? No. I pulled you over for an infraction. You pulled over for that. Why didn't you just take off then? You had a better chance of getting out of this if you would have just kept driving. Because then I would have. Am I really going to start a high-speed chase for a headlight?
No, I
No.
don't
But now I
think so.
got you pulled over, and you're gonna show me your license.
Or you're going to go to jail for a busted headlight.
Oh, you notice, but people don't like.
Yeah.
They don't like the police brotherhood. That look, I've been pulled over in every.
It's a power thing.
I've been pulled over in Florida. Of course, the guy let me go. I've been pulled over in California. They'll let you go because it's a brotherhood. You know, if you don't like it, go on the police department then and spend 25 or 20 years or 27
Any
years.
type of power or there's and with wealth.
It's privilege.
Comes,
It's you know what it is.
It's privilege. You're trying to break
but
that.
it isn't really. What it is courtesy and it's respect from one law enforcement officer to another.
and it only listen. If you pull over an off-duty cop and there's drugs, paraphernalia there, or something illegal activity in that car, unfortunately, you can use your. I'm on the job. I'm like, I can't not
Can't
see
help you
that.
with that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You should have done a better job to hide that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, listen.
Well, lawyers give courtesy to lawyers. Doctors give courtesy to doctors. Politicians, you want to talk about corruption?
Oh, you can get a job. You can get a job overseas doing something that you know nothing about
That's
and get
right.
paid handsomely for it just because your father happens to be vice
No,
president.
He got a position. He didn't get a job.
Bang.
He got a
He
position.
was on a
But they
board.
Didn't, they didn't allow him to attend the meetings.
Oh, really?
Well, then he might say something.
Yeah. Well, he was on the
With
board.
that.
Just to think about it, that if
It's an unqualified imbecile to do anything.
well, it can just to use your name to put on our pamphlet shows that you can trust doing business as well because we're bonded by the United States, basically.
Right.
That's what it was.
Well, then they just say that the Rikers Island land is going to be developed by Cushman Wakefield.
Uh-huh.
That's the real reason they're getting rid of Rikers, not because they have such a conscience
they've
about people
probably
being.
been trying to
you
do
didn't
that
see
for
that
years.
coming?
No, I'm just saying maybe some of the people out there don't know that. They think it's really criminal justice reform.
No, it's not.
No, it's real estate reform.
It's right on the water, man. Look at all the. So that's funny. The housing projects were put on the water, from what I understand, because irrigation. The sewer systems and stuff like that. Nobody wanted to live by the water because that's where all your toilets flushed into, and it smelled like shit.
Yep.
So they put all the projects there. And now all of a sudden, when we got these,
Clean
toilets,
water and
all this stuff, they're looking at that real estate like, why are the projects right in the rockways, right on the beach?
Yeah.
And they're constantly trying to figure out how to take it over.
East River houses.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, you know what they did? The Fort Greene projects aren't projects anymore. They let those go fallow. And then they ended up buying out the last couple of residents, and they redid them as high-priced condos down in Fort Greene.
What is that fellow?
Empty.
Yeah, because the
Leaving it
government
fallow.
can just condemn something and say, "Oh, this is."
Well, no, they just don't. It's the housing authority. We want to sell this property and convert it to private real estate, but we can't have people living here to do that. So when they violate their lease or they die,
Right.
we don't fill the apartment. We leave it empty. And then after you get about 75% empty, you find the other 25. I'm like, what's it going to cost to get you the hell out of here?
Right.
And they're all up in the Poconos now.
It's funny. Remember, if you were having trouble finding somebody in an apartment, and you had a warrant for that apartment, idle threats. I would never go through it, but you could always say, "Hey, you know what? Listen, it's your son. Whatever. Give me a call back. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to go to housing and say that you're harboring a felon here."
Right.
And I would always scare the shit out of them.
Yeah, you got the phone call for that one.
Well, they tried to do that where they said if someone in your family committed a felony, we're going to evict you out of public housing. I don't think they were very successful.
No, they were actually with the drug felonies.
Oh, they were.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it goes
they
in
were throwing
waves.
people-
It
they were
always
throwing
it
people
depends
out
on the
left and right.
administration. Right now, if you did that, you'd be a whistleblower.
Get
You'd be
med
outed.
tickets.
Nobody's getting out of their housing now.
Yeah.
But a lot of those houses, I thought they sold a bunch of. The city sold a bunch of housing to private developers.
Yeah.
And they can't do anything with it for 50 years. I think it was.
I don't know. The Fort Greene houses are already condos. So
Yeah, I think
There were some rough projects too.
I
right?
took murderers out of the
Yeah.
Fort Greene projects.
Yeah, it's
I love when people say that too, like they get jealous about your health insurance, about your pension. And they said, you wouldn't think it was that much money if you pulled a murderer out of his bed at 4 a.m, or if you've been shot at.
Yeah.
What price can you put on that?
Yeah.
But that hasn't happened to you. So that's why you're jealous of my pension and my health insurance,
I'm still living off of my pension contributions. I'm still playing with house money.
Yeah.
I'm
Absolutely.
not getting I'm not getting to where.
How many
it's
years you
paying
been
off.
out?
10 now.
10. They say that's when it first starts getting inflated a little bit, is after 10.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've been out 8. It's still, my pension's still good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know,
Yeah, well, you
I
have
worked
those 10
400
years.
hours every year for 10 years or more, you know.
Yeah.
So did you probably, right?
Yeah.
Or more, maybe 500.
I think I made something like 780 hours
Oh,
my
my
last year.
God.
I caught
Oh,
every
you were-
homicide in Brooklyn.
You were walking
practically.
dead, man. You were probably walking around like,
No, not really.
oh, you don't need sleep? Do you hang upside down in your closet?
No, but I put a pair of sunglasses on. I can sleep at my desk. and you don't know
I
I'm
just
sleeping.
remember my last few years on the job. I walked around like a zombie, but I was also teaching part time.
Right.
And I was the
right.
SBA delegate, so I was always tired, always. You know. How about you, Mark?
I did it at 30 hours a month, and I was also doing comedy every night. So
You were tired too.
I haven't taken a break in over 20 years. How many hours a day do you put into writing?
When I move to write, I write. I'm dealing with my own social media coordinator, so I'm doing that every day. That has to count.
Yeah,
as part of the
business
writing.
hours.
It's,
I guess business hours, do
Yeah.
they count? But they don't count as writing time for you, do they?
It's part of the whole writing process, so yeah, I'm counting it. With respect to writing, when I get on a roll, I get on a roll. I'm very prolific. I'll write 40, 50 pages.
Wow.
So like I'll shoot down. I get on a roll. I'm like, all right, today's a writing day, and I'll just stay at it until. All right, that's as far as I can go with this thread. I'm gonna have to outline a little more to get to the next part. Actually, believe it or not, I got the first 2 chapters done for the book after Burnt to a Crisp. I don't have a title for it yet.
Wow.
But
All these
It's another Patty
ideas.
Dare book.
All these ideas in your
and I'm
head.
supposed to have lunch with the detective that caught the Irma Lozada homicide in the 8-3.
Wow.
Gary,
Tell our audience who Irma Lozada is.
Irma
or was.
Lozada was the first female police officer in New York killed in the line of duty. She was a transit police officer from District 33. And in, I believe it was 1985, chased a chain snatcher into a vacant lot on Moffett Street in Central Avenue in Bushwick. And the guy overpowered her and he killed her with her own gun.
And the partner was.
They had gotten separated. And there were a lot of stories back then, like when it was going on.
Right.
We heard that the partner was lying, that they had separated earlier in the day, and that they weren't chasing this guy together.
Right.
I end up talking to the detective that caught the case in the 8-3, and he worked hand in hand with the major case detective from Transit on the case, and said they gave that guy a bad time, and it was unjustified. They beat him up. They burned his locker. They cut his tires and broke his windshield. He had to get transferred.
And there was nothing behind it?
Yeah, what was behind it was the chief of internal affairs in the NYPD at the time was a guy named John Guido. Scumbag. He had no jurisdiction in this case because it's a transit case.
All right, we're separate then.
Yeah, so with respect to any discipline action for these cops with a partner who wasn't with her when she was killed, it's not his purview. Stay out of it. But he got involved, and then he went to the New York Times, and he basically did an article with the New York Times using his internal affairs people to allegedly disprove the statement of the partner because they were separated by 2 rail lines. And the partner's story was he never heard the gunshot. Mm-hmm. Because supposedly there were freight trains running all day long. There were subway trains running all day long over there.
So the perp killed her with a gun.
Right. So Guido goes and he gets 50 of his empty suits from Internal Affairs, and he spreads them out every 50 feet along the trails, the rails, and he lets a shot go in the air, which, by the way, is illegal. But he lets a shot go in the air, and all of these, oh, yes, Chief, I heard the shot. I heard the shot, Chief. So based upon that, he goes through the reporter that he used to use in the Times, and he puts this slanderous attack out on this poor transit cop who gets punished for it. And in fact, it was a horrible accident. They got separated.
That can happen in anti-crime, absolutely.
Yeah. And
That's
Franny
happened.
is the only one that had the radio.
Yeah.
He didn't have a radio, so he had to go back to the transit. When she didn't show up back at the transit district, he had to get a radio and go out looking for her. And it wasn't until, like, he couldn't find her and they couldn't raise her that finally they notified the cops from the 8-3 and the detectives from the 8-3, and they end up finding her in the lot a couple of hours.
I mean, that was a police murder that stuck, I think, with everyone. I mean, just it being the first female officer that was killed on the line of duty.
Yeah.
I mean, I just came on back then. I came on in 1985.
I don't even think I was a cop yet when I went down. But I had friends who were transit cops that worked in District 33 at the time.
And it had just a huge impact on...
But yeah.
Hey, we're going to have to wrap this up pretty soon, but... Before we do, I just wanted to find out, are you gonna have any promotional things coming up that our audience can go check you out and purchase a book and get it signed by you in person?
Why don't you come to the party on the 20th? And Russo's on the Bay. Why don't you?
I'll see if I can make it. I have to check my.
It's a Friday morning to afternoon.
But
I'll check it out.
What do you have besides that? The 20th.
I actually have 2 launch parties scheduled. One in January, I believe. It's a Thursday night. I want to say it's January 18th at Coogan's Pub in Washington Heights.
Okay.
I'm doing a launch for
Coogan's.
Wait, what date is that?
I think it's January.
Is it on your website?
Yeah, it is. Actually.
Okay, so why don't you plug your website for the dates, and people can go check out the website.
Well,
for
actually,
the dates.
what you can do is you can go on visit my website, michaelo'keefeauthor.com, sign up for my newsletter, and you will get an email and a personal invite to these events.
All right, man.
And then
I'm on his website.
yeah. And in February, early February, I'm doing a Long Island launch party.
Okay.
For my friends on Long Island at the Nutty Irishman in Farmingdale.
All right,
That's a good time there.
sounds pretty crazy.
Well, I serve alcohol, so it's fun.
Hey, let's give a shout out to Coogan's too. Nothing against the Nutty Irishman, we could plug them too. But Coogan's has always been a staple
friendly,
for cop friendly. The owners there are big fans of the show.
Peter Walsh, Dave Hunt.
Yeah, Coogan's is actually a character in my books.
Cool.
And I think I had Dave Hunt. I quoted in Shot to Pieces. His character actually appeared in, and I think I wrote Pete into A Reckoning.
That's great. You know, they both came up to me when I was at your book signing at Coogan's, and they said, I mean, I was so flattered. They said, your and Mark's interview of Michael O'Keefe was the greatest cop interview we've ever heard. They were actually comparing us with 60 Minutes and 2020 people.
Nice.
And I was like, whoa.
That's
I was like, wow.
Yeah, I learned
because
a lot
because
that
you
day.
guys gave it the perspective of cops.
it was great.
I go, those journalists don't know shit.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to plug a couple of things too. I want to say a thank you to Stand Up for Autism. We did a show out there, and it was great. And if you're out there and you have somebody or have a child that's suffering part on the spectrum, and you need some resources, look them up. Stand Up for Autism, Nassau, Suffolk, and also. I just did a Old Bridge Militia. I did a show for them this Saturday. They also do a lot of work with autism, and they collect it, and they give a lot of money away to different various groups. So a big shout out to them. And Bill, what do you got?
I got a show at Lucy's Laugh Lounge in Pleasantville on December 28th. I'm hosting the show. It's called Third Time's a Charm, because my other 2 shows, they canceled. So I named this one Third Time's the Charm. On the 18th of January, I'm actually headlining it. It's my first headline at Carmine's in Elmsford. So I'm sort of flattered to be first headliner. I'll have to really prep for that one,
Good. How much time are you going to do?
I don't know, 20, 25, I guess. I got to really
headline. You got to do 45, bro.
I'm not doing 45.
Step into the lines, then.
I'm not ready for that yet.
Yeah. It goes quick, man. When you're having fun, it goes quick.
Well, when you can abuse the audience, that's when, right?
So there you have it, man. Michael O'Keefe's got another book out. It's called Reckoning in Brooklyn, and I can't wait to dig into it. I got my copy today, and I'd appreciate it if I can get a scratch on there. Would you mind?
Not at all.
And before we split, we got to give a special thank you to Andrew Steiner.
Amazing, right?
Unfortunately, Rashad caught ill. He's suffering from the flu. Rashad, we wish you a speedy recovery.
Yeah.
And but we promised Andrew that we would get him in here. and he came in and he filled in. He did a fine job.
And a last-minute call, too. You didn't even know Andrew was going to be here today,
No,
right?
it was a surprise.
Called
It was
him
a
in the wee
surprise.
hours, and he answered right back. He answered the bell.
And Bob was kind
Bob
enough.
Mladinich.
Was kind enough to sit in on both shows, and you can see him in The Irishman.
That's right. An imposing figure.
Oh, quite an imposing figure. You should get many more parts, by the way.
No, you haven't mentioned Bob's book.
Oh yeah,
which,
we
by
can do
the
that.
way, I think,
We can do that
because
Bob.
it is my favorite coffee table book.
Cool.
Uh-huh.
It's the undisclosed files of the police department. He wrote it with my friend Bernie Whalen.
Is that the name of it? The undisclosed?
Actually, the redo is in a smaller. It's in a paperback.
Yeah.
It's still a big paperback.
That's great.
It's called Case Files of the NYPD.
Case Files of the NYPD.
175 years of solved and unsolved crimes.
175 years of solved and
88
unsolved.
stories.
88 stories. Wow.
Yeah, so you had the Kimes case. Kimes, Sante Kimes.
Sante Kimes.
That's a good one. I want to.
It's a very good one.
And my
Hopefully-
friend Tommy Hovigem caught that.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
I'd love to have you back, Bob, on the show here.
Yeah, we'll
We can
definitely have him on
talk
the
to you.
show.
Talk to you some more about the book. And this was a great interview.
Let me just,
man.
Mark, let me just add one thing. We're having some unbelievable guests coming on this show, and I'm amazed every time we have a new guest come on. Mike's, this is his second time around, but if you have an unbelievable story to tell, and you can hit us up on Police Off the Cuff on our website, and we'll refer you to our producer. But I'm talking, we want great stories, and that's what we're about here. And just message us on Police Off the Cuff, and we'll refer you to our producer and try to get you on.
Also, if you, we're in the process of developing a website for the show itself, and what we'd love to do is if you belong part of a group or a charity that has resources, we're going to have a page there where we can share all this information for members of the service, also for just a civilian fan, just something where if you're doing fundraisers and it goes to a certain cause and you want us to give her a plug, that's what we're here for. So, on behalf of Police Off the Cuff, I want to thank Michael O'Keefe for coming in again.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And I wish you the best of luck on your book sales. And thanks for tuning in, folks. We're over end of tour right now.
Tour, that's right. So, Mike, if you blow up, you'll come back on, even if you blow up?
Yeah, I'll be steady whenever you want me. I'll come in.
All right, have a great week, folks.
It's a good time for me to sit and chat with friends.
Yeah, this is good.